It's Friday, November 5. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. A special sitting of the House of Representatives was held on Friday in response to a Supreme Court ruling preventing the police from issuing traffic tickets in excess of fines as at 2006. The injunction granted by the Supreme Court has the potential to cost the government more than $3 billion in refunds to the public. This as a recent court case has also become a class action suit after a judge permitted Mr. Maurice Hussein, who brought the matter before the court, to be the representative of other drivers and motor vehicle owners who were issued traffic tickets and paid a fine or a fixed penalty in excess of the measures approved of up to 2006.
Transport and Mining Minister Robert Montague introduced the bill entitled the Road Traffic Amendment Act 2021 to the House. He explained that the amendment is required to address the penalties within the original act. He also noted that the Road Traffic Act in 2018 was passed, but not brought into force.
The reality is that the technical officers within the Ministry of Transport and Mining have been working assiduously on the changes to be made regarding the regulations, which, as you may be aware, are of an extremely technical nature. The Act and regulations will, however, be brought into force in short order, as they are at an extremely advanced stage, and I am the first to acknowledge the concerns of my colleagues in this House and the general public on this state of affairs. Madam Speaker, the bill today consists of only two clauses. Clause 1 of the bill sets out the short title and construction of the bill, and Clause 2 of the bill seeks to amend the third schedule of the Principal Act by deleting the appendix thereto in order to increase the quantum of fixed penalties for offences under the Act.
The shortfalls of the Act were highlighted in a recent court case. Opposition leader Mark Golding posited the possible ramifications of that case.
As I understand it, the case arose because a litigant has asserted two substantive points. Firstly, that the procedure for the imposition of the fines which have been in place on the face of it since 2006 was a procedure which was wrong in law, and that procedure was by way of an order made under the Provisional Collection of Tax Act. And secondly, that order had expired. This approach means that everybody who gets a ticket now will have an incentive not to pay it, but to go to court instead and either plead guilty and pay the maximum fine there, which is lower than the ticket, or if they feel they have a defense, plead not guilty and fight the case in court. It would be wise, I think, if we were going to amend the Act, an Act which we're about to repeal, indeed, which has been repealed by the 2018 Act, but that Act is not yet in effect, so the repeal has not yet taken effect. If we're going to be amending an Act which is already the subject of legislation which has repealed it, then we should do it in a way that doesn't create a perverse incentive.
The matter saw both sides giving their contributions, but National Security Minister Dr. Horace Jang said the crucial issue is one that contributes to law and order.
Road Traffic Act and the penalties attached is crucial to public order, and everyone in this room can appreciate. In fact, they spoke to it extensively, what is happening on the road today, and the need to ensure that the police can, in fact, carry out their duties effectively at all times. And even one day is out of urgency if we create that gap in there. And this law is not designed, there are a number of issues raised, will be discussed another time. It's designed to ensure that we can have the police continue their work on the road highways of Jamaica to seek to protect people's lives. That's what all this is about. That's the principal reason why we're here today. And I think every single life in Jamaica is that important that we can call the sitting of the House to ensure that it's done.
In the end, the act was passed.
As we reported on Thursday, e-tickets are to become the new norm for police officers to issue to motorists. In a few days, the Ministry of National Security will be rolling out the pilot of its electronic traffic ticketing system. We take a closer look at this development. Today, when a police officer stops a motorist, he pulls out a traffic ticket book and writes a ticket for the offense. The officer has to write the type of offense, the motor vehicle particulars, and the date of the offense. After this, the process is completed. Then the data entry operators have to enter the ticket information into a database. That process can sometimes be fraught with human error. So says Chief Technical Director with responsibility for Security Risk Reform and Transformation Policy Division in the Ministry of National Security, Delroy Simpson. eGov Jamaica has developed an e-ticketing app that can run on any Android phone, and what this does is allow the traffic officer to enter the traffic ticket information electronically. If the officer enters something incorrect, then the system will not accept it, and the officer will not be able to proceed with the process. He says it's a printable ticket, but the digital entry will be accessible to all relative agencies. The Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression and Punishment Amendment Act 2021 was given the nod in the House of Representatives on Wednesday. Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, in closing the debate on the bill, described human trafficking as a heinous activity, adding that the amended act punishes human trafficking while deterring persons from getting involved in the criminal activity.
We are moving from the bill, which has had several amendments prior to this, and it fines for individuals who might be apprehended and are involved in trafficking in persons. We are accepting the recommendation that this should also apply to directors of companies who may have connived in allowing such activity to take place in the corporate body for which they represent, so that all who are getting directly involved in anything to do with trafficking and punishment will be subject to severe penalties. And would hope that at this stage in our development and the criminal development, that we'll provide the police and the relevant law enforcement agencies with the tool required to really take strong action and prevent any further expansion or development of this particular crime.
The amendment also makes a consequential amendment to Section 10 of the Child Care and Protection Act to remove the option of fine in lieu of custodial sentence. The next step is to have the Upper House peruse the proposed amendments. In this edition of the Extended Business Report, we take a look at government's plans for the microinsurance industry and get other key market updates.
All Jamaicans could do with some amount of insurance, whether it be on their property and casualty side or on the life side or other forms of insurance.
The government is moving to make insurance accessible to all Jamaicans through a microinsurance policy framework. Finance Minister Dr. Clarke said the proposed microinsurance bill is expected to be tabled in Parliament before the end of the financial year. He was speaking recently during the Insurance Association of Jamaica's semi-virtual microinsurance conference.
The Ministry of Finance and Public Service has been working with the Chief Parliamentary, or the Office of the Parliamentary Council, and with Attorney General's chambers to bring this legislation to life. And I'm proud to be able to say at your conference, International Conference on Inclusive Insurance, that long before the end of this fiscal year, we will table the microinsurance amendments or the microinsurance bill in the House of Parliament.
Noting that insurance provides financial resources to offset known and unknown risks, Dr. Clarke acknowledged that existing legislation makes it difficult to develop, market, and sell microinsurance products.
So the vast majority of Jamaicans, actually, with a poor country with a per capita GDP of $5,500, the vast majority of Jamaicans are outside of the formal financial sector where formal insurance is available. And for them to be included, for their needs to be accounted for, we're going to have to create the legislative framework which forms part of the broader national financial inclusion strategy of the government of Jamaica to make insurance available to informal commercial importers, to small enterprises and small firms, to persons on the lower end of the income scale. It will be necessary for risks to be pooled so that the insurance product can be affordable.
The Minister of Finance and the Public Service said the existing Insurance Act does not easily allow for the pooling of risk because of requirements for equitable interest in what is being insured. He outlined elements of the micro-insurance bill being drafted.
Will obviously define microinsurance, define a microinsurance product, will deal with the registration of microinsurance managers, that you have to be registered to provide a microinsurance service. It will also deal with fit and proper requirements for those engaged in providing microinsurance services. It will require that microinsurance products have certain minimum terms and minimum contract requirements for all microinsurance products.
Dr. Clarke says for the microinsurance industry to thrive, it must serve the needs of the thousands of Jamaicans who fall outside the financial services window.
The government is serious about economic recovery, but more importantly, the government is serious about inclusive economic recovery. And therefore, we're taking deliberate, conscious, premeditated steps to enhance the policy environment and the legislative framework to bring hundreds of thousands of the unbanked, of the uninsured, into the formal financial services space where they too can have access to bank accounts, to insurance products, and to financial services in general.
For the Business Report on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, November 4, the US dollar sold for an average $156.28. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $125.76. The pound sterling traded for $210.34, and the euro sold for an average $184.33. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 1,544 points to close at over 405,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 97 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 44 declined, and 14 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 18 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Epley 7.5% preference shares. Supreme Ventures Limited was the volume leader with over 7.1 million units, followed by Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 1.2 million units, and Mailpack Group Limited with over 800,000 units. In market data for oil prices rose more than 1% on Friday, staging a partial recovery after OPEC Plus producers rebuffed a U.S. call to raise supply and instead maintained plans for a gradual return of output halted by the pandemic. Brent crude futures rose 82 cents or just over 1% to $81.36 a barrel after falling almost 2% on Thursday. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 97 cents to $79.78 a barrel, having declined 2.5% in the previous session. The OPEC Plus group of major producers agreed on Thursday to stick to their plan to raise oil output by 400,000 barrels per day from December, ignoring calls from U.S. President Joe Biden for extra output to cool rising prices. Oil prices recently touched 7-year highs but fell earlier this week on a U.S. stocks buildup and signs that high prices may encourage more supply elsewhere. And with that, we close this extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
Let's now take a look at some stories from across the region. In Antigua and Barbuda, workers from the National Solid Waste Management Authority Collection Department engaged in a sit-in at the landfill Wednesday morning. The workers say management failed to honor their promise of updating them on the status of their unpaid overtime monies. Jamie Roche spoke with some of the aggrieved employees and filed this report.
These National Solid Waste Management Authority trucks remain at the landfill Wednesday morning as collection department workers engage in industrial action. The department, which has about 30 workers, has downed tools over unpaid overtime from 2020 and 2021. 18LU President Wiggly George says the workers first took industrial action about 8 months ago. He says despite several meetings and promises from management, the issue is still unresolved.
They agreed that persons who were working for a certain amount of money would be paid all of it. Another tier would have been paid a substantial portion of it, and those persons with large amounts of monies would be paid periodically, at least 10% of the reducing balance.
George says management did not honor this agreement, leading to another meeting with the general manager last Monday.
The manager, he requested 2 days from the workers to get his act together and report back to them. Technically, I would say, well, Tuesday, Wednesday, best thing for them to do is wait until Thursday morning to see whether or not he would show up and what he would say to them based on his investigation. He did not show up Thursday nor Friday, and the whole weekend passed. Monday was a holiday, so the workers turned out Tuesday morning, yesterday morning. And just to realize that, hey, we didn't get anything, nobody said anything to us, the manager never showed up. And so we are once again going to sit down until we find out what is the position with the manager.
The workers say they again attempted to meet with the manager before acting Wednesday morning.
I'm now learning that yes, he was contacted and that he bluntly said to the workers that he is not coming here.
George advised the employees to remain on the job site for their usual hours. They say their absence on the road will affect garbage collection in several areas, including Lightfoot, Cashew Hill, Fort Road, Five Islands, Radio Range, and several schools.
The workers say they have absolutely no problem hopping onto a truck, but insist they need the old monies to cover financial obligations.
My daily funds need our money, so I have to come and take up our rubbish. You understand? Next problem, we guys gotta survive. We have bills. We owe a lot of people out there. They're calling us, want their money, and when we told them we don't get no money from work yet, sometimes some of them don't believe. You understand? So we just want the people them out there to understand what we're going through, and we try our best to keep the country clean, and I don't even want to miss a jump as a driver. So, just asking the management if we can please work with us.
Hayden Jeffrey says he and his brother Joel need their overtime to provide for family members, including their sick mother.
And my brother, on the other hand, well, he's a lot as well, but his boots, it's not good. It's smashing up. I mean, Jack, come and show them your boots. That's the condition of every day.
The union president says if management doesn't provide a timeline for payment, the union may invite other departments to join industrial action. Shortly after speaking with the workers, we contacted General Manager Davil Spencer, who told us he was preparing to travel to the landfill to meet with the aggrieved employees. Jamie J. Roche, ABS News.
In Grenada, government is once more committing to address the issue of high electricity bills. Labour Senator Andre Lewis added his voice to the issue. Shariana Blackman-Stephen has the details.
Labour representative in the Senate, Andre Lewis, has made a bold call on the government to assist the Grenadian people struggling through these challenging times by cutting the cost of electricity as promised.
Recognizing that when it is imported or local, There's absolutely no doubt that we have seen a significant increase in the cost of living. We are proposing that one of the ways that can help mitigate that is that now that Clarke has been owned by us locally, then there will be a 10 to 15% reduction in the cost of electricity to households as a means of helping to mitigate the rising cost of living.
Consumers have been clamoring about the increase in their monthly bills, and this was responded to by Finance Minister Gregory Boeing during last week's post-cabinet briefing. He told the media that government is considering alternatives to providing relief to Grenadians that he hopes will be reflected on their electricity bills.
It has to be otherwise. It has to be taxation coming from some other place that we have to take to say, well, like, you charge a smaller price. What is that smaller price? How much will we be giving up? We will be giving up, let's say, $10 million. Like, so some of the tax type must move to help give that reduction in price of electricity.
Infrastructure Minister Nolan Cox, during Thursday's sitting of the Senate, in response to Lewis's appeal, said that government has given its commitment to address the issue.
Additionally to what is being spent right now through the stimulus support, which is extensive in billions of dollars that is being provided to persons currently. And so we hear the call and we are going to respond. As regards to our commitment in bringing the tariffs for electricity in Grenada down, that is something that we are committed to, and we are going to get that done. We have always indicated that this is not going to happen overnight. It will take some time.
Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
The virtual Divali Nagar celebrations came to a close in Trinidad and Tobago on Wednesday night. Chairman of the celebrations and second Vice President of the National Council for Indian Culture, Sahadio Partap, said as a responsible NGO, the council has not allowed the pandemic to dampen the celebrations. Mahala Joseph Wharton has more.
For many years, the Divali Nagar has been the most anticipated event leading up to the Hindu Festival of Lights. Chairman of the Divali Nagar 2021 and second Vice President of the National Council for Indian Culture, Sahadio Partap, said although the absence of physical spectators was missed, they were elated to once again put on a show for those at home to enjoy.
Understandably, as a responsible NGO and national organization, we have not allowed this pandemic to prevent us from operating within the new norm, to present an abridged version of what you've come to know as the best Diwali exposition anywhere in the Indian diaspora.
He said it has been challenging, but this has not deterred them from hosting the virtual celebrations.
This has not come without its challenges, but we are steadfast in our commitment to our Hindu sisters and brothers and the national community at large to celebrate this important Hindu calendar event within the confines of established state protocols.
During the 9-night celebrations, some of the biggest names in the Indo entertainment industry participated. This is the second year that the NCIC hosted virtual Divali Nagar celebrations. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
In sports, the Central American and Caribbean, or CAC Games, are the oldest continuing regional games. The 24th edition of the Games will be held in 2023 and is being hosted by El Salvador. These games will be historic as for the first time, netball will be included as a sport. This augurs well for Jamaica's national netball team, the Sunshine Girls. Ryan Foster, Secretary General and CEO of the Jamaica Olympic Association, spoke of this new development recently at his office in Kingston.
For the first time in the 2023 CSE Games, or the 24th edition of the CSE Games, netball will be played as a sport or as part of the games. I think this is historic not only for the region but also for Jamaica, which is ranked, I presume now, 4th in the world in netball. I believe when the discussions were initially had about netball and other sports being a part of the CSE Games, Jamaica, via the GOA, advocated feverishly to ensure that netball is played as a sport in the CSE Games. I think at the Technical Commission level, for which I'm a member of, when netball came as part of the agenda item, not only did Jamaica advocate to ensure that netball was played as a sport, but it was an easy selling point to the other members of the Technical Commission of Central Caribbean Sport. They see the value of netball, and of course we see the value of netball in the region as well as internationally.
JOA President Christopher Samuda said the organization was influential in lobbying for netball to be included in the Games.
The Jamaica Olympic Association is very proud to have been part of that advocacy campaign. Once the Technical Commission had recommended the game, at the Executive Board level, we certainly did not have any hesitation in ensuring that it was approved. So netball will be very historic at the Central American and Caribbean Games, which is scheduled for 2023. Clearly, we have had a history of success in the sport, and the Caribbean, in fact, has had a history of success. What we are going to do now is to ensure that it becomes a game that is played in the Americas, and that is part of the Jamaica Olympic Association's advocacy. What we want to do is to globalize the sport of netball, a sport that we are strong in, and a sport that we have the expertise and competencies to share with members of the sporting fraternity globally.
The first Central American and Caribbean Games were held in 1926 in Mexico. And that's our package. As always, we say thanks for making it PBCJ, the People's Station.